What's up guys, Techmaster back with another video. So today we are going to be going through the iPad lineup for late 2024 and seeing which ones are worth it. So to start off, we have the iPad 10th generation from 2022. This is $349. We have the iPad Mini 6, which came out in 2021 actually, which is actually the oldest iPad. Sorry, it's taking a while to load. But let's see. This will load, probably not. Give me one sec, everyone. It's being dumb. Apologize. I'm going to refresh my page here. Okay. I think it'll load, maybe. Here we go. Then we have the iPad Mini 6th generation for $499. That's actually, it's kind of expensive nowadays, given that this iPad is almost 3 years old. We have the iPad Air 11-inch M2, or 10.9-inch really, with the M2 chip, starts at 600. We also have the 13-inch size for $799. Then we have the unbelievable M4 iPad Pro for $999, and then the 13-inch for $1,300. So yeah, these are all crazy iPads that have just gotten refreshed. So let's go on and start through the differences. So to start, we're going to compare the iPad Mini, the iPad 10, and the iPad Air 11-inch M2. So to start, on the display. So the iPad Air has a 10.9-inch display, just like the 10. It says 11 inches, but if you go down here, it'll say it's really 10.9 because it's actually given the screen. We have P3 wide color on the iPad Air, the Mini, as well as a True Tone and anti-reflective coating. The iPad 10 doesn't have those things, so it's stuck to sRGB color, so it doesn't look as good. It does have True Tone, but it has a non-laminated display, so it doesn't have the anti-reflective coating on it. Now, in terms of the chipset, we have the crazy M2 chip on the iPad Air 11-inch, 8-core CPU, 9-core GPU. The A15 Bionic on the iPad Mini, which is still actually very fast. It has the 5-core graphics, so 6-core CPU, 5-core GPU. And then we have the mostly older A14 on the iPad 10th gen. So 6-core CPU, 4-core GPU, which isn't terrible, but it is getting a little bit older. On We have all have 12 megapixel wide cameras on all the iPads, but the Mini actually has a flash, which is kind of more convenient. The iPad Mini is also the only one that doesn't have the landscape 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, so it's totally fine. It's still a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, but it is missing out on that. They all have USB-C connectors, Touch ID on the top button, and then they also have landscape stereo speakers. But the Air will technically have the best sound quality. I've done through some videos and stuff, and the iPad Air does have the best speakers compared to the 10th gen and Mini. So the Air also has Wi-Fi 6E, so that is faster than Wi-Fi 6, obviously. They all have 5G cellular, and then the Air supports the Apple Pencil Pro, the brand new Apple Pencil. The Mini supports the second generation Pencil, which is still sold by Apple, and the iPad 10, unfortunately, only supports the first generation Apple Pencil or Apple Pencil USB-C, so it kind of sticks out the bottom. It's really annoying. It should use the second gen and better. The Mini doesn't have the Magic Keyboard or the Magic Keyboard Folio. It just supports Bluetooth keyboards given its tiny size. Now, in terms of the storage sizes, the iPad 10 and Mini has started 64 gigs, which is fine because they released a couple years ago, but the Air is much better value because it starts at 128 gigs and goes up to 1 terabyte. The Mini and 10th gen are capped at 256. The Mini's easily the lightest one at 0.65 pounds, which is crazy light. Although for its size, it's mid. It's not crazy though. The iPad 10 is definitely the heaviest at 477 grams, and the Air is lighter due to its thinner design. Now the display, as I said, the iPad 10 isn't laminated as you can see here, and it doesn't have an anti-reflective coating. It also doesn't have the Apple Pencil hover feature, but it does get True Tone, which is good. Now on the chip side, the iPad Air gets the M2 chip with a 9-core GPU, 100 gigabytes of memory bandwidth per second, and 8 gigs of RAM. Now the Mini gets the A15 Bionic chip, 5-core GPU, and it doesn't get all that memory bandwidth sort of thing. And then the iPad 10 gets the older A14 chip. And the iPad Air also has a media engine, and 8K video engine encoders and stuff, as you can kind of see here. The power and battery is the same on all of them, although realistically, the iPad 10 gets the best battery life given its thicker design and slightly older chipset. But the iPad Air, I've actually seen tests, and given its M2 chip and 60 hertz display, it doesn't look great for the iPad Air. The battery is not as good. The Pros actually get quite a bit better. Apple Pencils, I told you the iPad 10 uses the worst Apple Pencil, the USB-C, and the um, first gen. The cameras are the same. The Mini has the flash, so they all have the f1.8 aperture single camera, but the iPad Air would definitely have the best camera quality given the M2 chip, and obviously the iPad 10 will have the worst camera quality. The iPad Air also has Smart HDR4 for photos. The Mini and 10 have the Smart HDR3. Front camera, they're pretty much the same for the most part. And yeah, so what would I recommend? Well, to be honest, the Mini is kind of overpriced, given it's almost 3 years old, still being offered at $499. That's not bad. However, you can buy it on Amazon for around $379. That's a great deal. The iPad 10 actually isn't terrible because it's pretty much not. You can pretty much not find this under $300 on Amazon. So it's actually $349 isn't terrible even from Apple. The Mini definitely would do it on Amazon. You can get it for over $100 off. And then the Air, because it's brand new, you're not going to really find any deals. But this is actually a really good iPad. I recommend this for most people. Give it its M2 chip. It starts at 128 gigs of storage, and it's $600 for all you get is really good, and they make a 13-inch size for $799. So the Air is actually great this year. I'm personally not going to upgrade to this one. I'm actually getting the M4 iPad Pro given its much better features, but I'll go over that in a little bit. But this is the best iPad, particularly if you're coming from an older iPad Air, like an iPad Air 3rd gen or 4th gen. If you have an M1 iPad Air, definitely keep it. There's no reason to upgrade. But if you have anything older, like even an iPad Air 4 with its older A14 chip and stuff, it's pretty much the same as this iPad 10 over here. That's not a bad upgrade to the new M2. You'll get much better battery life, better Apple Pencil, better performance. And there's a bunch of things that are much better on this. So definitely, if you have an iPad Air 4 or older, get this new 11-inch M2. Yeah. Now let's move on to the next set. So we have the 13-inch iPad Air for $799, the iPad Pro 11-inch M4, and obviously the 13-inch one. There we go. So the Pros actually have a lot of benefits this year. So the iPad Air 11-inch is $799. The iPad Air, 13-inch is $799, not the 11-inch. The 11-inch is $599. The Pro 11-inch is $999, and the Pro 13-inch is $1299. So just keep in mind there's a massive price gap this year. The iPad Air is $400 less, the 11-inch model, and then I'm looking at and then the iPad Pro 13-inch is like $500 more. So there is a big price gap between these, the Air and the Pro this year, but the Pros have a lot of advantages, which I will go over. So on the display, the iPad Air 13-inch has a 13-inch liquid retina display, P3 wide color, True Tone, anti-reflective coating. Now the Pros get an OLED display, so Ultra Retina XDR. It's really OLED. I am so sorry, that just popped up randomly. OLED display. They have ProMotion technology. Now, if you don't use an iPad, if you don't use an iPhone Pro, like an iPhone 14 Pro or anything like that, or a MacBook Pro that has 120 hertz, you won't see this, but trust me, I haven't used ProMotion, but definitely I've heard that once you use it, it's hard to go back because it's like totally makes your 60 hertz feel really slow. So I will be upgrading to this tomorrow, I think. I might do a video on it, I don't know, but yeah. iPad Pro has ProMotion technology, a nano texture display, which is basically a really soft, like smooth glass. Now, it is only available on the 1 and 2 terabyte models, so you do have to spend more, but it is a nice experience. Don't get me wrong. Now, the iPad Air 11-inch gets the M2 chip, obviously, and the Pros get the M4 chip. So, the Pros get the brand new Apple Silicon, and it's not even in the Mac yet. The Mac is still stuck on M3 and M3 Pro and M3 Max. Now, yes, the M3 Pro and M3 Max have way more cores and stuff than the M4, but it doesn't have the M4 chip yet. Any of the MacBook Pros and even the MacBook Air, none of them get the M4. So the Pro is the first device to get the M4. Now, there is one catch. The it automatically comes with the 10 core GPU, but if you want the 10 core CPU, you do have to upgrade it, and I will show you that in a little bit. Now to be quite fair with you, it's still a much better chip than the M2 and way more capable, and the Air actually gets a 9 core GPU, so you are still getting an upgrade. So no matter what, it's going to be better, but I'll show you where you have to upgrade it. Now, on the M2, sorry, I don't know where that came from. The iPad Air 13-inch M2 gets a 12 megapixel wide camera. They all get 4K video, but the Pro gets ProRes video, and it has a LiDAR scanner and a flash. And this camera bump is actually really nice. So you get a LiDAR scanner for 3D mapping and all that stuff. So if you want a better camera and you can record in ProRes, you have to get the Pro. The Airs don't support any of that. The landscape 12 megapixel camera with center stage, all the Pros get that too, and the Air. But the Pros have a true depth camera, obviously. Now USB-C connector on the iPad Air. The Pros get a USB-C connector, but they also support Thunderbolt. Now this next feature is one of the biggest features of the Pro. It gets Face ID. I like the Touch ID fingerprint reader, but the Face ID for a phone is definitely more convenient because and yes, on iPhone it's much easier to hold on to, but the Touch ID is definitely, it's not bad. It's way better than a home button in my opinion, but the getting Face ID is definitely more convenient. So if you like that, then definitely do it. Now, another big feature is the Pros get 4 speakers. Trust me, these speakers are a million times better than the Air. The Air has good speakers, don't get me wrong, but the Pros actually have much better speakers, so just keep that in mind. They all get Wi-Fi 6E, they all get 5G, and they all support the Apple Pencil Pro, which is good. And then the iPad Pros get a specific Magic Keyboard, which is a little bit better. You can kind of see here it has these like extra top keys. I don't think it'll be that big of a difference, but yeah. Now, the Pro is the lightest, or not the lightest iPad, but it is one of the lightest iPads, and it actually weighs less than a pound. It's the thinnest Apple device ever, the Pro 13-inch at 5.1 millimeters. So yeah, it's thinner than the Air. Pretty insane. So yeah, the iPad Pro, and then the iPad Pro 11-inch is 5.3. Now, to be completely honest with you, I think the 11-inch iPad Pro, unless you want the bigger size, the 11-inch Pro is actually quite a bit better. Not quite a bit better. I take that back. The Pro is 13 inches is great, but I think it is way more expensive, and also because of the more pixels, I've seen battery tests. The iPad Pro 11-inch gets better battery life due to the 13-inch Pro. It's thinner and it has to push out more pixels. So if you want like a longer lasting battery life, then get the 11-inch because it's also a little lighter still, and and it's smaller, but it's a great size. I've seen tests, and it actually is a really nice size. I haven't felt it in person, but I've definitely seen it, and it's bigger than the Air. But yeah, it'll be a nice size for people who want like a 11-inch screen. Now, sorry about that. Now, this is another really big benefit. So the Pros get OLED. They get tandem OLED. But not only that, the screen brightness is much brighter. So the iPad Air is capped at 600 nits of brightness. Now, 600 is not bad, but if you go outside, it's not as good. But the XDR brightness, the Pros get basically twice as bright. So 1600 nits with HDR content, but they get 1000 nits outside. So that is better if you're like working outside on a hot day. You don't want to, the Pro will be much more visible outside. And they also have Pro Motion display and a nano texture display. Now, this is one other thing. Sorry, I keep saying now. I kind of keep repeating myself in that way. But the Airs get the M2 chip, but the Pros, in order to get the full efficiency of the chip, so basically it says with the 256 gig of 512 storage gigabytes of storage, you get a 9-core CPU with 3 performance cores and 6 efficiency cores. But if you get the 1 or 2 terabyte models, you get 1 extra CPU core and 1 extra performance core, but you still get 6 efficiency cores. And you automatically get a 10-core GPU and all that. Now, to be honest, if you want the full performance, you can get the 1 or 2 terabyte, but because it'll also give you 16 gigabytes of RAM compared to just 8. But to be honest, you won't really see a massive difference. 8 gigabytes of RAM for iPadOS is plenty. I mean, I think the minimum should be 6, but like 8 is a lot for iOS. You can't even really use the full potential. So this spec, the 256 and 512 is more than good enough. If you want the 1 or 2 terabyte specs, then get that, but it's just not super worth it. The media engine also gives you ProRes and ProRAW video recording and stuff. And they also get hardware accelerated 8K, HD, HEVC, all that stuff. They're all the same battery and then keyboards, all that stuff. Video recording, pretty much the same. Um, and then the pros, I think you can do ProRes video, 1080p for 256 gigabyte capacity, and then 4K 60. Um, you know, with external recordings. But with that being said, you can record in ProRes, so that is nice. The front camera is pretty much the same, all that stuff. So, what's my opinion? Well, the pros are definitely, in my opinion, actually worth it, particularly if you have an older iPad Air. I think the 13-inch iPad Air is great, but I think if you have like an M1 iPad Air and you want a massive upgrade, this new Air is not going to be that good of an upgrade. The iPad Pro, as I went over, has a ton of benefits like ProMotion display, OLED display, quad speakers, Face ID. There's a million other benefits. ProRes video, true depth camera, Thunderbolt port. There's a lot of benefits with going with the iPad Pro. And the 120 hertz, again, is like the biggest feature, as well as the quad speakers and the OLED screen and all that. The Pro is definitely better. So again, if you have like an iPad Air M1 or something, then it's definitely worth going up to the M4 versus like going to the M2 iPad Air, because that's not a big upgrade. Now, if you have an older iPad Air, then going to this M2 iPad Air is actually a really good deal because it will give you much better battery life and a better chip and stuff. But keep in mind, you can buy an iPad Air M1 for like under $500. I think it's like $438 on Amazon. So that is a really good deal, and that's still much better. And not only that, you can get like a 256 gig iPad Air M1 for like less than the 128 gigabyte iPad Air M2. So keep in mind, you can find that one for much cheaper. So yeah, if you want another iPad Air, and you don't want to spend like crazy amounts and don't want to spec it up, you might as well just get the M1 because it's more than good enough. Yeah. Now, as for the pros, definitely the pros are absolutely worth it. Obviously, there's the M2 one, which is cheaper, but I think, to be completely honest, that one wasn't the M4 chip is a way better iPad than the M2. I mean, yes, like the M2 is still better, but like this is the M2, by the way. So again, there is some benefits of the Pro 11-inch. It's not bad, but I think personally, I would still say that the they removed some features of the Pro M2, but yeah, I still think the iPad Pro M4 is still a little bit better. Again, they're both very good. They actually have some very similar features, but I think with the Apple Pencil Pro, the space black color, and the M4 chip, the nano texture display, I think there's a lot of benefits with getting the new one. But with that being said, the iPad Pro M2 is a really good price. I think I've seen it for under $800. So that is a pretty good value. So yeah, so I would definitely recommend the Pros. They are expensive, but they are going to be the best iPads, and they will last you for years to come. Like literally, they could probably last you 7-8 years, because there are still iPads that have an A10 Fusion chip from many, many, many years ago. Like there are iPads with crazy old A series chips from like 7 years ago now. So those things are still supported with software. So this M4 chip is going to guarantee updates for somewhere around the next decade. So just keep that in mind. If you buy an M4 chip, you will get way better software than like the M2, M1, and older and all that stuff. So yeah, guys, that pretty much covers out this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, but I would definitely recommend the iPad Pro M4. I think it's going to be a great iPad for many, many years. And by the way, I will be upgrading to this M4 iPad Pro. I might do a video on it. I might do an unboxing video. I don't know. I'm going to have to transfer all over my data, but stay tuned because I will be doing that tomorrow after I upload this video. So yeah, stay tuned. But yeah, this iPad Pro M4, I'm going to obviously be upgrading. I think this is going to be a great iPad given all the new features and all that. But yeah, stay tuned, guys. See you guys in the next one.